Amir's life has always been difficult, but it's also shaped his character. Despite the hardships he faces every day, he remains kind-hearted and determined to help others when he can. He's lived in the rundown neighborhood for as long as he can remember, with his mother struggling to make ends meet while caring for his two younger siblings. His father, who used to work long hours at a factory, had passed away a few years ago, leaving Amir to take on the responsibility of supporting his family even at his young age. On a typical day, Amir walks the same cracked sidewalks, past rows of worn-out houses where the hum of busy city life fills the air. He carries a worn-out canvas bag to collect cans, bottles, and anything else that can be recycled. Though he doesn't get much money from the recycling, it's a small way he contributes to the household. He's often met with curious and sometimes dismissive stares from passers-by, some of whom are too preoccupied with their own lives to notice Amir's efforts. He doesn't mind. He's used to it. He's seen more than enough hardship to understand the importance of resilience and the strength of his mother, who pushes through her own struggles to keep their family going. As Amir walks the streets, he keeps his eyes open for anything that might help. He's also grown fond of the stray dogs and cats that roam his neighborhood, often taking a few moments to feed them or check on them. He finds solace in caring for them, knowing that even the smallest acts of kindness can make a difference. It's a lesson he has learned from his mother. No matter how small or seemingly insignificant the action, it's always worth doing. One afternoon, while walking down the street, Amir notices a woman sitting on the corner of the alley. She's clearly struggling, her face pale and weary, with a large bulge in her belly. Amir's heart skips a beat as he notices her discomfort. She's clearly pregnant, and something about her expression tells him that she's in pain. He hesitates for a moment, unsure of what to do. The streets are often full of people who don't want to be bothered or even acknowledge those in need, but Amir's instincts tell him otherwise. He approaches her cautiously, his heart pounding with concern. "Are you okay?" he asks gently, his voice soft but full of concern. The woman looks up at him, and for a moment there's a flicker of recognition in her eyes. "I'm just tired," she says, her voice weak and shaky. "I don't know what to do. I can't seem to catch my breath, and I don't have anywhere to go." Amir feels a pang of sympathy in his chest. He knows this neighborhood all too well. Many people who live here struggle with their own burdens, often with no one to turn to for help. But this woman is different. She's pregnant, and Amir's protective instincts kick in immediately. "Don't worry," he says firmly. "I'll help you. We can get you somewhere safe." He helps the woman to her feet, supporting her as she stumbles. He knows the risks, but he refuses to let fear stop him from doing what's right. Together, they walk down the street, one step at a time, as Amir thinks about what he can do next. Amir approaches cautiously, his heart racing as he takes in the sight of the woman lying on the cold concrete. Her face is pale, and there's a sense of desperation in her eyes as she tries to sit up, but winces in pain. Her clothes are tattered, and she appears to have been out here for hours, perhaps longer. The sounds of the busy city seem far away in the alley, drowned out by the feeling of urgency and concern in Amir's chest. "Excuse me, miss," Amir says softly, stepping closer. "Are you okay?" Sarah blinks, trying to focus on him, and with a weak voice she whispers, "Help, please. I need help." Amir's heart sinks. He kneels down beside her, instinctively offering his jacket. The fabric is worn and frayed, but he hopes it will offer her some warmth in this dark, dreary alley. "Let me help you," Amir insists, his voice filled with determination. He gently drapes his jacket over her shoulders. We need to get you somewhere safe. Sarah winces as she tries to move, but her swollen belly clearly makes it hard for her to adjust. Amir looks around the alley, unsure of what he can do next. This part of the city is quiet, hidden behind the bustling streets, with few people passing by. He knows the streets can be dangerous, especially for someone like Sarah, who looks so vulnerable in her condition. "Can you walk?" Amir asks, his voice filled with concern. Sarah shakes her head, her breathing shallow. I don't think so," she whispers. "I've been on my own for too long. I didn't know where to go." Amir frowns, trying to think. He knows he doesn't have much, but he can't leave her here. It's a risk, but he can't let fear stop him. He gently helps her sit up and supports her as best as he can. "I won't leave you," Amir says, his resolve firm. "I'll stay with you." For a moment, Sarah looks at him, surprised by the sincerity in his words. She seems to take comfort in his presence, her eyes softening. "You're just a boy," she says, her voice barely a whisper. "Why would you help me?" Amir shrugs, because everyone deserves help, no matter who they are or where they come from. You need help, and I'll give it. Sarah stares at him for a long moment, clearly moved by his words. She nods weakly. "Thank you. I don't know what I would have done without you." Amir's heart swells with a mix of relief and determination. He doesn't have all the answers, but he knows he'll do whatever it takes to help her. He looks around again, taking a deep breath. "Let me get you to a safer place. I'll figure it out," Amir says. He gently helps Sarah to her feet, keeping his grip steady as they start walking slowly down the alley together. The path ahead may be uncertain, but Amir knows one thing for sure. He won't leave Sarah alone in the streets, not when she needs help the most. Amir's heart races as he helps Sarah walk slowly down the alley, supporting her as best as he can. He knows time is critical. The city's busy streets are just a short distance away, but the uncertainty and fear weigh heavily on him. He looks down at Sarah, who's struggling to keep up, her steps shaky and labored. "I'm going to get help. Just stay here," Amir says, his voice firm despite the anxiety bubbling inside him. "I'll be right back." Without waiting for a response, Amir runs toward the community clinic just around the corner, desperate to get Sarah the care she needs. His small frame zips through the busy streets, dodging pedestrians, his mind focused only on one thing: getting Sarah the help she desperately needs. When he reaches the clinic, he rushes inside, hoping to find someone who can help. The receptionist at the front desk, an older woman with a tired expression, looks up as Amir enters, out of breath from running. "Please, ma'am," Amir says urgently. "There's a woman out there. She's pregnant and needs help. She's sick, and I think she might be in labor. Please, can you help her?" The receptionist gives him a cold, disinterested look. "We're not taking new patients right now," she says flatly, shooing him away. "You need to leave." Amir's heart sinks. He pleads with her again, but her response is the same. "I can't help you," she repeats. Frustration rises in Amir, but he knows he can't give up. Just as he turns to leave, a nurse steps out from the back. Her name tag reads Nurse Olivia, and her eyes immediately soften when she sees the desperation in Amir's face. "What's going on?" Nurse Olivia asks. Amir quickly explains the situation, telling her about Sarah's condition and how he had to leave her behind in the alley. He begs her to come with him. "I know you're busy," he says, "but she needs help. She's out there alone. Please." Nurse Olivia looks at him, her expression softening further. She's heard the desperation in his voice, and something about his determination and the urgency of his plea makes her rethink the clinic's rules. She nods. "All right, "Let me grab some supplies," she says, motioning for Amir to follow her. "I'll go with you." Relief floods through Amir's chest as they exit the clinic together. Nurse Olivia gathers a small bag of supplies while Amir's mind races, mentally preparing himself to get back to Sarah. He is determined not to let her down. On the way back, Amir rallies his neighbors. He runs into the first person he can find, a middle-aged woman named Miss Johnson, who's sitting on her porch. Her face lights up when she sees him, but her smile falters when she sees the urgency in his eyes. "Miss Johnson," Amir says out of breath, "I need your help. There's a woman in the alley. She's pregnant and she needs food, water, and blankets. Can you help?" Miss Johnson doesn't hesitate. "Of course," she says, standing up immediately. "I'll get some food and blankets right away. Let me call the others too." As they move through the neighborhood, Amir gathers more neighbors, urging them to bring what they can. Word spreads quickly, and soon a small group of people is on their way to the alley, each carrying supplies for Sarah. Their efforts come together, creating a sense of unity, of community. Despite the difficulties and challenges, Amir's determination has sparked something in others, inspiring them to act. When they return to the alley, Amir's heart is filled with pride, knowing that his persistence has made a difference. Together with Nurse Olivia, the neighbors, and the supplies they brought, Amir helps Sarah settle into a safe, temporary place where she can be cared for. Amir's determination, his refusal to give up, has turned what seemed like a hopeless situation into one of hope and support. The power of a single act of courage has ignited a chain reaction, helping not just Sarah, but the entire community come together to lend a hand. Once Sarah was settled into a safe space at the clinic, Nurse Olivia did her best to comfort her, offering support as the staff worked to ensure her immediate health needs were addressed. Amir, after making sure Sarah had everything she needed, stepped back, but his mind couldn't help but wonder about her story. He couldn't stop thinking about the woman lying on the floor in the alley, so vulnerable and alone. As Sarah's strength slowly returned, she opened up to Amir. One evening, when they were alone, she began to speak. "I don't know how to say this," Sarah started, her voice fragile but steady. "I was with someone, a man I thought I loved, but he was abusive, controlling, the kind of man who doesn't care about you unless you bend to his will." She paused, wiping a tear from her cheek. Amir stood by quietly, his presence a comforting source of strength. Sarah continued, "I couldn't take it anymore. He'd put his hands on me, said I wasn't good enough, that I was worthless. When I found out I was pregnant, he got angrier. He didn't want the baby. He told me I had to get rid of it. But I couldn't. So I left." She looked away for a moment, lost in thought. "But I had nowhere to go. No money, no family nearby. So I ended up on the streets. I was too scared to tell anyone, too ashamed to ask for help." Her voice quivered as she spoke, and Amir could see how deep the pain went. But she was also strong, stronger than he had expected. "The alley," Sarah continued, her eyes meeting his. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't found me. You saved my life. You saved my baby's life." Her voice broke with emotion. Amir was quiet for a moment. He didn't have the words for everything he was feeling, but he knew something had changed in him since he had found her. He had seen his own struggles in her story, a reflection of his own fight for survival on the streets. "I couldn't just leave you there," Amir said softly, sitting down beside her. "I couldn't. I've seen a lot of people who turn away when they see someone in need. I didn't want to be one of those people." Sarah looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. She reached for his hand and held it firmly. "I don't know how I can ever repay you, Amir. You've given me hope when I had none. I promise I'll do whatever I can to make sure you and your family have what you need. You're a good boy." The two of them sat there in silence for a while, a bond beginning to form, one of mutual respect and understanding. For the first time in a long while, Sarah felt like she wasn't alone. Amir had shown her what it meant to act with compassion, and she knew she wouldn't let him down. As she slowly recovered, Sarah began to regain her sense of purpose. Her resolve to protect her baby grew even stronger, knowing that Amir had given her a second chance, a chance to rewrite the story of her life and give her child the future she had once dreamed of. And she would do everything in her power to make sure that Amir and his grandmother never had to struggle again. She owed him that much. The clinic was quiet in the late evening, as Sarah's contractions grew stronger. She had been recovering steadily, but the sudden onset of labor took everyone by surprise. Sarah, clutching the edge of the bed in pain, looked up at Amir, her face filled with both fear and determination. "I didn't expect this. Not so soon," she gasped, her voice strained. Nurse Olivia was at her side immediately, reassuring her. "It's okay, Sarah. We're prepared for this. Just breathe." Amir, who had been anxiously pacing around, stepped forward, his heart racing. Though he had no medical training, he had been with Sarah through every step of her recovery. He had seen the strength in her, and now it was his turn to be the steady hand. "Stay with her," Nurse Olivia instructed Amir, seeing his concern. "Talk to her. Keep her calm." Amir nodded, though he was nervous. He had never been in a situation like this, but he didn't want to leave Sarah alone. He held her hand firmly, reassuring her that everything would be all right. "I'm right here, Sarah," he said softly, his voice steady. "You've got this. You've been strong from the start." Sarah looked at him, her face drenched in sweat but filled with gratitude. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Amir," she whispered between contractions. The minutes passed in a blur as the baby's cries filled the room. With the help of Nurse Olivia and the volunteers, Sarah was able to safely deliver a healthy baby boy. A mixture of relief and joy washed over the room as the baby was gently placed into Sarah's arms. "Oh, thank you, God," Sarah murmured, tears of happiness filling her eyes. Amir stood beside her, watching the miracle unfold. The moment the baby let out his first cry, it felt as if a weight had been lifted from Sarah's shoulders. She had done it. She had given life to her son, and he was safe. Her heart swelled with love as she gazed at him. "I'll name him Amir," Sarah said, smiling through her tears. "You've saved my life, and now you've helped give me a future. He's going to carry your name because you are his hero too." Amir was overwhelmed by the gesture. He had always been the one saving others, but to hear Sarah speak those words made him feel more than just a boy from the streets. It made him feel like a part of something bigger, something good. "Thank you, Sarah," he whispered, choking up a little. "I'm just glad I could be here for you." The room was filled with a sense of peaceful accomplishment, as the baby, now named Amir, settled into his mother's arms. The world outside the clinic seemed distant, as if it didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that they had made it through, and this little boy, his name would carry the legacy of hope, kindness, and the unexpected bond between two people from different worlds. And as Amir gazed at the tiny life in Sarah's arms, he knew that despite all the struggles, this moment, this miracle, was his reward for never giving up. He had saved a life, and now the world was giving him a chance to build his own. days after the birth, as Sarah settled in, she took a deep breath and looked at Amir, her eyes filled with a mix of exhaustion and relief. She had not only survived the hardship of being abandoned and giving birth alone, but also found someone who truly cared when it seemed like the world was against her. "I have to tell you something, Amir," Sarah began, her voice low. "I never wanted anyone to know, but now I have no choice. I think you should know the truth about me." Amir, who had grown attached to Sarah and the baby, looked up, his curiosity piqued. "What's going on, Sarah? You're safe now. That's all that matters." Sarah took a deep breath and then revealed the unimaginable. "I'm the estranged daughter of James Bennett, the billionaire who runs a large tech company. I ran away from home years ago because of a family dispute, and I didn't want him or anyone else to find me." Amir's eyes widened in disbelief. He had never imagined that Sarah, a woman struggling to survive, could have ties to such wealth and power. "He's been looking for me for months," Sarah continued, wiping her eyes. "I left without telling him anything, and I've been hiding, ashamed of what happened between us. But now, I have nowhere to go. I've been hiding for so long, and I just want my son to have a future." Before Amir could respond, a car pulled up outside the clinic. A tall man with graying hair, dressed in a tailored suit, stepped out. His presence exuded authority and wealth, but his eyes were filled with worry. He was followed by a team of bodyguards and, to Amir's surprise, a couple of aides. The man rushed into the clinic, and the moment his eyes landed on Sarah, they softened. He approached her with a trembling hand, clearly overcome with emotion. "Sarah?" he asked softly, his voice choked. "Is it really you?" Sarah looked up at him, her heart heavy but relieved at the same time. She nodded slowly, tears now flowing freely. "Yes, it's me, Dad." James Bennett, her father, stepped forward and embraced her tightly, the years of separation and pain seemingly melting away in that moment. He pulled back and gazed at her, his voice hoarse with emotion. "I thought I lost you forever. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry." Amir stood by quietly, watching the reunion unfold. He had no idea who the man was, but seeing Sarah's father so moved by her return made him feel a sense of peace. James, noticing Amir's presence, turned to him with a soft smile. "Thank you," he said sincerely. "You saved my daughter's life, and for that, I will be forever grateful." Amir felt a flush of warmth in his chest, but didn't know what to say. "I just did what anyone would have done," he replied modestly. James reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a large check. He handed it to Amir without hesitation, saying, "This is for you. I want to make sure you and your family never have to struggle again. I know it's not enough, but it's a start." Amir's eyes widened as he looked at the check. The sum was beyond anything he could have imagined, more money than he had ever seen in his life. "Thank you, sir," Amir said, stunned. "I don't even know what to say." James smiled warmly. "You've already said it with your actions, young man. You didn't think twice. You saved my daughter and grandson. Let me help you too. I'm in your debt." As Sarah, James, and the baby prepared to leave, Amir watched them with a sense of wonder. The life he had known, the struggles he had faced, now seemed so far away, and a future filled with hope and opportunities seemed within reach. This wasn't just a change for Sarah and her child. It had changed Amir's life too, and he knew that the world had more surprises in store for him. The following week, a team of movers arrived at Amir's small apartment with boxes and furniture. The entire neighborhood buzzed with excitement, wondering what was going on. To Amir's astonishment, his family was being relocated to a beautiful, spacious house in a much safer neighborhood. His grandmother, Nana Ruth, was speechless as she stood in the doorway of their new home, overwhelmed by the sudden change. As they entered the house, Amir looked around at the clean walls, the kitchen filled with appliances, and the comfortable furniture. This was a far cry from the cramped, run-down space they had called home for years. "This is ours?" Amir whispered, still unsure whether it was all real. A few days later, Mr. Bennet visited Amir and his family. He walked through the house with a smile, watching Amir's excitement grow as he explored each room. When they sat down together, Mr. Bennet looked at Amir and said, "You saved my daughter and my grandson. You showed kindness in the face of adversity, and that deserves to be rewarded." He handed Amir a check, and when Amir saw the amount, his eyes widened in disbelief. It was a significant sum, more money than he could have ever imagined. But that wasn't all. Mr. Bennet had arranged for Amir's education to be fully funded, from primary school all the way through college. "I want to help you become anything you want to be, Amir. You've got the heart of a doctor, and I'm going to make sure you get the education you deserve." Tears welled up in Amir's eyes as he looked at Mr. Bennet. I don't know what to say," he stammered. "Thank you. This is more than I ever dreamed of." "You've earned it, Amir," Mr. Bennet said with a smile. "This is just the beginning. The world needs more people like you, and I believe you'll make a difference." With a future now bright with possibilities, Amir felt a sense of hope he had never known before. He dreamed of becoming a doctor, of helping others just as he had helped Sarah. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but now he had the chance to make his dreams a reality. As he stood in the new home, looking at the new life he was about to start, Amir made a silent promise to himself. He would use every opportunity given to him to change the world, just like he had changed Sarah's life. Sarah remained an important part of Amir's life, even after her reunion with her father. She visited him regularly, bringing her baby along, and always made sure to check on Amir and his family. With every visit, she thanked him again for saving her life and that of her child, grateful for his courage and kindness. As Amir continued his education, he stayed in touch with Sarah, knowing that their bond had turned his life around in ways he could never have imagined. Sarah's father, Mr. Bennet, continued to support Amir's education and well-being, ensuring that he had every opportunity to succeed. Amir's act of kindness rippled outward, touching not just Sarah's life, but also the lives of those in his community. His courage inspired others, showing them that no matter their circumstances, anyone could make a difference. The new resources Amir had, thanks to Mr. Bennet, allowed him to help his neighbors, ensuring that they had access to the same support and opportunities he had received. As Amir looked out from his new home, surrounded by love and support, he smiled. He realized that while one small act of kindness had changed his own future, it also had the power to change the lives of everyone around him. He had saved a life, but in doing so, he had also found his own purpose. The story ends with Amir walking confidently down the street, knowing that the future, once uncertain and filled with hardship, now held endless possibilities. And as he passed by the familiar streets, his heart swelled with pride and hope. The legacy of his kindness had just begun,